Hi all, today we're going to be talking about moving to Japan during the pandemic. So this is the first video I'm making, and I'm just doing this to help out people who are trying to get over to Japan. Depending on the visa that you're trying to get, things are going to be a little bit different. Just to give you some background on me, so this is technically my third time moving to Japan. This time I'm going under what's called a Haigusha visa, so that's a spouse visa, so I'm going back with my wife. I am going from the United States, if you couldn't tell, and it's been a bit of a process because of the pandemic, but mostly it's still kind of the same deal, it just takes longer to do stuff. So a quick note for you guys, if you're going under like a student visa, which I've done, I studied abroad in Japan back in 2009, 2010 for a year, your school will pretty much take care of everything for you. So if you have questions on that and you're watching this video, you're probably not going to find anything here that your school isn't going to take care of, so don't worry about it. Similarly, if you're going under a work visa, so like if you're a young man, young woman who's gone into like an eikaiwa, and your work is taking care of the visa, again, this probably isn't going to matter too much to you. You're going to have to do a little bit more than the students, because you're going to have to go to the embassy and do a couple things. But other than that, you're fine. So this is really for people who are going under the Haigusha, the spouse visa. So let's get started on that. So you've decided you're going to Japan under the spouse visa, and your spouse, your husband or wife, is a Japanese citizen. And you're doing the application. So let's talk about the application process itself, because this causes a lot of confusion depending on where in the world that you are. So the visa application process to enter Japan has two primary phases. The first is applying for your certificate of eligibility. So we abbreviate that as the COE. In Japanese, this is a monster word. It's called the Zairyu Shikaku Nintei Shoumeisho. No one uses this word because it takes forever to say, so we just say the COE and everyone will know what you're talking about. So if you and your spouse are living outside of Japan, this can be a little bit frustrating because you need to have a proxy in Japan for this point. So a family member will do. My wife's family helped us out with this part because you need to be going, not you, but the person who's doing the paperwork actually needs to be going to the office in Japan, the immigration office, to turn in paperwork. It cannot be submitted at your local embassy or consulate. You cannot go to any of those places to submit these things for your COE. Don't try, don't call them, they will not take it. This has to be done in Japan. Second way you can do this is a lot of people also hire lawyers, immigration lawyers, to help them. If you want to save yourself a little bit of a headache on the actual paperwork side and you have the spare cash to do it, there's plenty of services that offer like an immigration lawyer to help you out who will submit things on your behalf and act as your proxy. This can also be a good plan if you don't have someone in Japan that you can rely on to do things for you. The documents you need to submit can be easily found on the Japan's Immigration Services website. I'll put a link in here just so you have ease of access to it, but there isn't too much to it. These forms are in Japanese, obviously, so you're probably going to need help unless your Japanese is pretty good. Mine is pretty good, but even so, I got a lot of help from my wife filling stuff out because she had to take care of a big portion of it herself with her information. There's also a questionnaire that you have to fill out. I think we had to write an essay on like how we met and things like that. Yeah, there was an essay, and you describe your relationship and all this stuff. It's the normal immigration stuff. I'm not going to go into too much detail on these documents. There's no real point. You'll be able to fill it out as you go through it. It's not too hard. It's pretty self-explanatory. There are, however, if you do get stuck, there's sample forms they have online. So if you do get stuck, or if there's something you're just not sure about, you can follow a sample and you'll be fine. It's not too bad. I don't think they asked for this specifically because my wife was functioning as a guarantor, the whole shonin. And because she's living in America and doesn't have provable income in Japan, I submitted bank statements from America to prove that I have money. So as long as you have an income that you can prove, you can send bank statements. I think I sent like 3 months of statements just to show income and things like that. For me, there was a couple things because at the time I still get 2 sources of income, so My writing, obviously I get monthly paychecks for selling books, but at the time I was still working in finance, so I was getting, my paychecks and my bonuses and the commissions and things like that. And also it shows, how much you just have saved up. So bank statements I did send as well. You should too. Once you finish completing all these forms, they need to be submitted to the immigration office, like I said, in Japan. So like I said, my father-in-law did this part for us. If you have a family member or a lawyer, they'll do this part for you. They'll take it to an immigration office, they'll drop it off. The one thing that got us during these, because we sent everything by mail to my father-in-law, is that Japan needs everything submitted on A4 paper. And everything in the United States in a printer that I had here is 8.5 by 11, which is very slightly different. So my father-in-law it was kind of a pain in the butt, but he had to go change the 8.5 by 11s that we sent him to A4. Save yourself a headache, find a place that prints it out in A4. I'm sure there's places, we just didn't see it and it kind of caused an issue. Once this part's done, this is where your waiting game begins. So basically, before COVID, this was pretty quick, like within a month, I feel like. After COVID, or during COVID, I should say, this took a full 3 months before we got our COE. So the way this works is your proxy in Japan is the one who's going to receive the documents. They're not going to send it to you in whatever country you're living in. They're going to send all those documents to your proxy, and then your proxy can mail it to you in wherever you're living. I know this is a big headache part of it. No one likes sending these kinds of documents in the mail. If it gets lost, especially in the United States, USPS sucks. I know, but this is really the only way you can do it. So you got to live with that one. So once you have the COE, the second phase of the application process begins. So this is the actual visa application process. So you're holding your COE. Your COE is not your ticket to enter Japan. Do not go to Japan with that thing. You need to actually go to the embassy in your country and actually get the visa itself. The COE is not the visa, remember that. So what you'll do is there will be a visa application form that you have to fill out on the embassy website. You can print it off, or you can fill it out and then print it off. It's fine, it's not too difficult. It's much shorter and easier than the COE stuff. Depending on where you live and how close you are to a consulate, you might be able to submit these by mail. And if you can, that's even better, because then you could just go back and forth via mail. I lived in Orange County when I was doing this. So I was about 35 or 40 miles from Los Angeles, which means I had to go to the embassy or the consulate, which was unfortunate because going to Los Angeles sucks. Anyone of you who live in LA know that. One of the things that you have to bring with you is your passport. Do not forget your passport. You actually have to turn it into them. So you'll bring your passport, you'll bring the visa application stuff, and then you'll bring the whole thing and give it to them. This was the worst part of it by far in just one sense. So right now with COVID, you cannot just walk into the consulate and do this. You have to set an appointment. But if you go onto the consulate website, the only place you can set an appointment is if you're a Japanese citizen trying to renew your passport. So what they've done, this was in Los Angeles and this was in May, so this might have changed, things are changing all the time, is if you're an American in this case like me, and you're trying to get to Japan and you need to do your visa application, you can only come between 1 and 2:45 in the afternoon on weekdays. But if you go to the website, you can't find a place to make an appointment for that time. So they tell you to call the number. So if you call the number, they say go to the website. And I'm like, you can see the problem here, because no one knows what they're talking about. It's a typical bureaucracy. Eventually I kept calling and talking to different people, and they had me go to the place where Japanese people go to renew their visas or renew their passports, and just make an appointment through there, which was a morning appointment, not the afternoon appointment. So thankfully my wife was with me when we did this, and we went in there and they were like, well, you can't be here, you have to come back later, you have to make another appointment. And I'm like, I followed you guys exactly, I was pissed. So they ended up helping us out. We had to come back later in the afternoon, so we had to hang out in Los Angeles for like 5 hours. We came back in the afternoon, we got it done, they helped us out. We had to write like a itinerary for the first 2 weeks describing where we would be. Other than that though, after that it was fine. So normally, non-COVID times, you'll get your passport back in the mail. They'll send it to you in the mail along with your visa stamped inside of it within like 4 to 8 days. But I think this time it took about a month for it to come back. So, and I think on the website they even say it could take even longer. So just be aware, you're gonna be without your passport for a while. It sucks, but that's how it is right now. You gotta get used to it. Well, actually, hopefully you don't have to get used to it. Hopefully it'll be over soon. That would be nice. So after that, you get your passport back. After that, you've pretty much done everything you need to do. I did ask if I could give them a vaccine card. Obviously, Japan, if you've been reading up on this, you've probably seen that they don't have any special procedures for vaccinated people yet, so it doesn't matter. I have my vaccine card. We got vaccinated back in like April, but there's no procedure for this. It really doesn't help you out at all at any point. There still hasn't been updated policies on that, so hopefully if you're watching this in the future, that has changed, but as of now, since it's July 7th, we're leaving for Japan tomorrow, that hasn't changed. Now on your COE, it's going to say you have to be in Japan within 3 months of getting your visa. That has also changed. They've extended that, so if you got your COE recently, but you're like thinking, oh my god, I have to go and I haven't been able to get to the consulate, or I haven't gotten my mail back, I haven't gotten my passport back, whatever. Don't worry about it. All of those have been extended quite a bit. They have information about that, I think, on the consulate website too. So relax, it's okay on that. But that's about it. Tomorrow we're going to be leaving for Japan, so we have to get a flight to Seattle and then over to Haneda, where we're going to be doing our 2-week quarantine. So I'll be updating this a little bit to just talk about that process and see if I can help out anyone going through this as well. If you have any questions, you can leave a comment below. Other than that, yeah, good luck. I know this isn't easy, but hopefully you guys all make it. And yeah, like I said, you have a good rest of your day and take care. Bye.